Cup broadcasts. And Marco himself running through the full Cinderella run in the losers bracket, dropped down there after round number 1, has won every single game since. We'll start by taking a look, I think, at Marco.
Yeah, Marco, of course, is going to be who Antonio needs to be taken down. Antonio's been taking down these big names, and this is another one. 2020 OCIC champion, and a top 16 at LAIC, and a top 32 in Worlds in 2019. So a fantastic player with a fantastic team to boot. So we're seeing that Landorus again. I mean, this Landorus has been such a key part for so many players, and here it is again with that Urshifu Rapid Strike, the Incineroar we all know and love, Regieleki, Togekiss, and Metagross.
Moving on over to his opponent, though, Antonio Sanchez Cervan, a name I'm sure many of you will be familiar with who have been watching the Players' Cups over the past year or so. Made the global finals in Players' Cup 1, a fantastic achievement there. And then in the region qualifiers for Players' Cup 3, just fell 1 round short, so desperate to set the record straight and make it back to the finals. A Pokemon he's definitely been known to bring before, that Colossal that we learned about a little bit earlier, making an appearance, something he's really liked to play with and really refine and perfectly execute that team, along with the Galarian Moltres that has been doing a lot of work when we've seen it. Partnering those up with the Dragapult and the Urshifu, making sure your Colossal can get set up, Incineroar, and the Rillaboom as well. So slightly different teams this time. The Colossal is something we haven't really seen as much so far in Players' Cup 4, and I'd be curious to see if Antonio thinks he can get that steam engine running.
Yeah, there was a Colossal yesterday, but unfortunately wasn't brought, and it's going to be tricky against this team as well. Colossal was able to steam engine its way to the top in a lot of previous Players' Cup, and there's a lot of things out there to try and slow it down and stop it now. Landorus as well with those Max Quakes or Earthquakes. Colossal doesn't appreciate that, and the Urshifu Rapid Strike as well with that water coverage is just insane and really difficult for Colossal to deal with.
It's one of those you've got to find the right opportunity to get it in and get it set up without it getting too badly hurt in response. So it's going to be a tough time at team preview for Antonio to see if he's got those options. I'm not sure. I think you're right. I think the Landorus is one of those that says, no, I don't really want to deal with that. And of course, having the Rapid Strike Urshifu for yourself, you don't want to take 2 big water attacks in a turn. So a tough decision. I like Marco's team a lot. I like the Regieleki, I like the Metagross as well, and be curious to see exactly how all of this shakes out. Enough of us talking about it though. I think we've just got to get in and see how they go. This is the losers bracket, and of course a loss here sends them home.
So to start, we are going to see that Colossal with that Dragapult. This is a classic Colossal tail here, but Landorus coming out to try and keep it in check, paired up with that Togekiss.
The lead very confident from Antonio, just saying, you know what, I don't think you're going to be able to answer me either in time or at all with your lead. The steam engine boost, along with that weakness policy, makes this Colossal so dangerous and able to just really get going very early on. Of course, does have to respect the Landorus. The Landorus could fire back with a huge Max Quake. But the decision is, do you think you can do enough damage to it to take it out of the game before it can drop that? It looks like we're starting out with Dynamaxes. No real shot there from either trainer. You can probably guess which one's getting it on each side. There's the Colossal Dynamaxing up first, actually.
The Colossal not giving any respect to this Landorus off the bat here and just going to be going for the max. Dragapult, classic tail, going for that surf. It does do a nice amount of chip onto Marco's Landorus, but more importantly is going to get that steam engine boost, the weakness policy boost, making this Colossal an absolute force to be reckoned with here. So normally this slow pile of rocks is just going to be hugging along and starting everything off with the Max Volcolith into the Landorus and just taking out. It's one of the biggest things to threaten it.
See you later, Landorus, not able to withstand the G-Max Volcolith and that residual damage getting set up. This is a really disastrous turn for Marco as everything's gone right for Antonio, and I don't see an immediate response to this fully set up Colossal. The Landorus didn't Dynamax, wasn't putting itself in a position to try and deal with that, so this could get really nasty over the next couple of turns. The residual damage from the Volcolith is already in play. You're allowed to bank on that to do a little bit extra damage, and Metagross, not the best matchup, I'd argue, into a Colossal that's set up so efficiently.
At least the Togekiss does have the opportunity to go for a follow me, and us having a little bit of peek into Marco's mind here, it is going to go for that. So at least it can keep the Metagross safe from this Colossal for at least a turn until this Togekiss goes down. So this Metagross has to make something happen now to not let Colossal steam engine its way to the end of the game. So Marco having to respond with this Max here. Landorus wasn't able to get it done. Hoping that this Max Quake from Metagross can be pulling through, but this follow me coming out, and we're just going to have to see how much this Colossal is going to do, and I think it's going to be a colossal amount.
It's going to be a huge amount of damage, but the Togekiss, importantly, will be taking the hit in exchange for the Metagross. I think the Volcalith here, a sign of respect and knowing about the Togekiss and its ability to follow me from Antonio, but this could be a really big turning point. I love this play from the Dragapult, though.
This Will-O-Wisp going to be absolutely huge in reducing the amount of damage this Metagross is going to be able to output, and we see that coming through. Max Quake can normally hit so much onto a Colossal. Colossal does not fare well against ground types, but it is going to be able to withstand it comfortably this time around, as this Metagross is just getting neutered here.
Supportive Dragapult does it once again. The Will-O-Wisp making sure that that Max Quake is easy to take and not a problem for this Colossal. The Metagross will be struggling to really capitalize on the last couple turns, and this gets really nasty really quickly. Relying on the Aqua Jet here. Colossal didn't set up the Sun with a Max Flare in the last turn, so this might be enough. It's going to be tight, and I'm really interested to see just how much the Aqua Jet does without the Sun. But that said, I mean, it's still a 4 Pokemon to 2 lead for Antonio. Getting rid of the Colossal is just one problem. We've still got the back 2 at full health to deal with, not taking any residual damage for the rest of the game.
Yeah, this Colossal has just been making fast work of Marco's team here, and this Metagross is a little struggling right now, but Aqua Jet is coming out so close to picking up the KO, but the Colossal hanging on, getting an opportunity to go for a third humongous hit here, bringing the Urshifu all the way down to Sash. Not like it's going to matter. That residual effect is still in play, and Urshifu already having moved for the turn. Dragapult just to boot, going for the Will-O-Wisp here into that slot, which Urshifu's already going to go down, but why not a little insult to injury. Hailstorm from the Metagross, though, is going to go into the Dragapult to at least try and clean up this supportive Pokemon.
Well, which residual effect do you want to take out the Urshifu? There's going to be 3 options now, the Hail, the Volcalith, and the Burn. The Urshifu not able to do the work it needed to do, and yes, Colossal will also fall, buffeted by the Hail. I don't know if that was exactly calculated for, but it's a nice bonus. That said, this Metagross is going to be just trying to 1v2 as the Urshifu does go down to the Hail, which activates first into game number 2 for how this game was getting played out. And it looks, to me, like a very standard way to play the Colossal Dragapult team.
Oh, certainly. At least picking up the 2 KOs means that he does have that more information going into a game 2. And in these best of 3s, getting information is oh so important. Urshifu showing has it to detect here and kind of stay safe. Rillaboom just going for the knockoff into the Metagross. Metagross taking the hit comfortably, but this Metagross has definitely an uphill battle here. It tries to make something happen with this Max Mindstorm here, which is at least nice to be switching out the terrain that Rillaboom likes to profit off of, but as it stands, it's still a 2v1 with a burnt Metagross out on the field, and the last turn of Max.
No more Max moves, so no more big effects to change things up, taking, once again, large amounts of residual damage between those turns, really starting to hurt over there, and this Metagross, it's going to look even worse. Now it's no longer Dynamax. The Rillaboom not having access to Grassy Glide, probably not a massive problem. Probably not the move it was trying to throw down in the face of this Metagross anyway, but good to know that you can change up the terrain if that's something that comes into play in game number 2. And game number 2 looks like where we're going to be heading as Marco throws in the towel a little bit early on this one, seeing the writing on the wall for the Metagross and maybe heading back to the bench to come up with a solution to Colossal Dragapult as a lead.
At least before leaving the match, being able to have the opportunity to get to see those last 2 Pokemon. Going into a game 2 here, I mean, that first turn, it always seems to be so up in the air with the Colossal. Obviously, the Colossal doesn't want to be hit by Landorus, but if you have the confidence to just go for it and try and take it out, means you're taking away one of the biggest threats out there. And maybe not thinking that the Landorus was going to be that the Colossal was going to target into it, not going for the follow me. So it's going to be really interesting to see what adjustments are made, especially on this first turn, knowing that there's a threat of Colossal out on the horizon.
That was kind of the clinic on how to run Colossal. I know it went down to the Hail, but it was, in the Urshifu's case, but it was 3 turns, 3 knockouts, and that's exactly what you want out of your Colossal. Even the turn where the Follow Me came through and was there to try and, take something away, let that Metagross fire back with a Max Quake, was perfectly responded to by the Will-O-Wisp from Dragapult. So really, really good. Back to the drawing board for Marco. Maybe that turn 1 just has to be played a little bit differently. Looking at it and saying, well, if I don't Dynamax the Landorus, which also has access to the Max Quake, of course, you're not going to get Will-O-Wisp that turn. The Dragapult has to set up with the Surf in that turn, so you could fire back with the Max Quake right away. Yes, you're going to take a lot of damage, but with the Dynamax, definitely in a better position to take one of those huge hits. And you've still got that early turn Togekiss to Follow Me. So definitely different options that Marco could be playing with in this one. And as we head into game 2, he's got to look at those move selections a little bit more carefully.
Yeah, the not going for a Follow Me on that first turn and for going for a Dazzling Gleam instead, definitely hurting. But it's time to hop into this game 2 to see what adjustments are being made, especially on how this first turn is being played. And it's not going to be played any differently from Colossal's end here. I mean, why would it be? The Colossal worked so well last time, but it is going to go down to a bit of mind games as Landorus and Togekiss come out onto the field. And of course, Marco, having the information with how Antonio played the first game, can take the opportunity to switch things up.
I don't think it was a bad lead at all from Marco. I think it's arguably the correct lead into this Colossal Dragapult combination. Just needs to be played a little bit differently, maybe a little more aggressive from the Landorus. But once again, it's Colossal Dynamaxing up. Doesn't have any speed boosts, so in a position to try and deal with something that way. But I don't see any reason Antonio is going to be able to not set up once again with the Steam Engine.
Of course, Antonio just looking to apply all that early pressure, but a big key different on Marco's end this time around. The Togekiss is going to go for the Follow Me, so this Landorus will be able to keep relatively safe. Of course, that surf damage is not going to be fared too well, but it's going to be safe from the Colossal as it's going to be a menace. That Steam Engine boost, that Weakness Policy boost, getting the opportunity to fire off a big attack here, and it is going to be the Volcalith into this Togekiss. Togekiss going to go down for the troubles, but this is going to allow the Landorus the opportunity to try and make something happen.
Landorus is left up to fire back. No Dynamax from the Landorus, maybe preferring to save that for the Metagross. And the Earthquake lands onto the Colossal. That's exactly what Marco needed, as Colossal only landed one move in its Dynamax form going down. But importantly, it was the Volcalith that came all the way through. So the residual damage is in play. This game looking a whole lot different, though, to game number 1, as now Marco has access to the Dynamax once again. Could try and apply a whole lot of pressure with that. And maybe the Metagross the candidate, as it looks to be hovered in the menu here. A lot of great coverage options. The Max Hailstorm that was in game number 1 to deal with the Dragapult. Max Quakes for anything that Landorus can't quite get around. The Max Mindstorm as well for this Urshifu. So Metagross would probably be the Dynamax candidate at this juncture. And it would also help it withstand the onslaught of the Volcalith that's coming through and its residual damage.
Oh, certainly. But we did get to see it last game, just how much impact that residual damage has. And it's coming down to whether this Metagross wants to be Dynamaxing. Last game, of course, we saw it got burnt right away. There is still the threat of the Dragapult out on the field here. But it does look like Marco's going to go for it. But Landorus just wanted to go hide in the back. Marco bringing out his own Urshifu to play here.
Once again, the Urshifu shown in the back for Antonio. The exact same 4 from Marco, so as we talked about between games. being able to change up that game plan, follow a different path, not run those same routes, really, really impactful. Metagross taking that Dynamax form, being able to apply some really good pressure over the next few turns. Does have to watch out for the potential burn from this Dragapult, which that comes through right again.
Well, it was connecting, definitely a little unfortunate, and Antonio taking the opportunity as well to go for a Surging Strikes, but Marco looking to protect the Landorus, had swapped into the Urshifu, so this Urshifu is going to be taking these Surging Strikes quite comfortably. It's hit 3 times, but barely taking any damage as Marco looks to fire back with a Max Hailstorm to finally put this Dragapult to rest, but not before taking that really damaging burn. Once again, though, the
Metagross is here. The Metagross is setting up to deal with the rest of the team and taking out Dragapult. Step 1 on the way to go. There is, of course, the potential for the Rillaboom in the back, so that Max Hailstorm could become very, very impactful again. And a nice switch from Marco as well. Not giving up that Landorus, saving it for later, saving it for if it needs to come in. And even though the Metagross is burned, it's still going to be able to put down a lot of pressure. A little bit of residual damage from Hail, making sure Focus Sashes are broken. Putting himself in a really, really good position, as I don't see the Metagross going down anytime soon.
Yeah, which is a really big, different story than on Antonio's end there with that Colossal. And even though this Metagross is burnt, being able to capitalize off of potential all 3 turns of Max is definitely going to be nice. But the residual effect is still going to be really annoying on his end. Rillaboom, though, looking to just join the field and start applying some pressure with those Grassy Surge, Grassy Glides.
Well, the Rillaboom is going to be able to put pressure down onto the Urshifu over on Marco's side, and the potential Landorus as well. Probably going to have to try and switch in, and now would be a really good time to land that Intimidate. Of course, both these Pokemon physical attackers on Antonio's side, exactly the pair that you want to land an Intimidate on, as there's no way for them to block that or switch out and reset it either. So everything right now just riding on this burn Metagross to deal the damage, as Marco uses the other slot to maybe try and pivot around a little bit, maybe try and see what it can do to slow down Antonio's team. He's already slowed it down by taking the Colossal away, and maybe able to take away the terrain in this turn as well. So a lot of good things coming through for Marco. Looks like he's going to level it up and play it a little bit differently from the last game.
Of course, the Intimidate is so nice here. Urshifu just opting to go for the Protect as the Rillaboom, yet again, just looking to get rid of the Assault Vest on the Metagross, so it's not really going to make a difference, but the knockoff damage will, as Max Mindstorm coming out. The Urshifu not taking too much damage, but of course, getting that terrain shift is going to be really nice here.
No more Grassy Glides for the Rillaboom, and no way to reset up that grassy terrain. No switching, no access, of course, to a Dynamax. No way to get that going. So could be a bit of a runaway game now for Marco. I think he's got everything going really well for him. Of course, things are getting weakened by the Volcalith Rocks. Those were set up on the very, very first turn of the game. And that's really Antonio's win con here, is making sure that those rocks put things in damage range for an easy knockout. The Metagross is still pretty healthy. Of course, that is boosted up by the fact it's a Dynamax, so it looks a whole lot better than it is. And at the end of the Dynamax, at the end of this turn, we will get a truer sense of where this Metagross is health-wise. But even burned, it's been able to keep itself in a decent little position, do some good work, pick up a knockout and change the terrain. Not a bad little shift for a burned Metagross.
Of course, but is going to have to be putting in work against this Urshifu and Rillaboom on Antonio's end. Of course, they did get intimidated, do have that attack drop, but they're still both fairly healthy. But Landorus swapping out for Marco's Urshifu here, so being able to pivot those Intimidate is going to be really nice. But Urshifu just opting to target into the Metagross instead, start getting that chip, start trying to take down this absolute beast of a Pokemon health-wise.
So Metagross has been really healthy. This is the first time I'm looking at it and thinking, it's a little bit low getting down. The Rillaboom, though, following up the knockoff, there's no item on it. You've already knocked off the Assault Vest, so not getting the massive amount of damage down there. And the Max Mindstorm connecting proper this time. A burn Metagross still gets knockouts. The terrain was up as well, helping it out and making sure that everything comes through. So now it's just Rillaboom being asked to do all the work for Antonio, and with no grassy terrain, I'm not sure that it's got it in the bag.
And this is really just showing how much that first turn made a difference. Being able to just eliminate the Dynamax candidate on Antonio's end, proving absolutely huge. And Antonio just ripped through Marco's team the first time around, but Marco doing it this time around, and all that's left is this poor little Rillaboom.
Turn 1 change, so impactful, and games really can be won or lost on turn 1. It wasn't the leads, it wasn't the team selection, it was just how the game was played that was so important. So Marco adapting beautifully, growing into game 2, learning what was coming through. I think maybe game 1 there was some mind games that went a little bit awry for Marco, expecting something like the Colossal to switch out and face the Landorus. But the Landorus just did what it needed to do, keep applying that pressure. And Metagross, will it get another knockout while burned? No, it's not enough, but it's going to be able to sit there and watch the hail do some of the work. Metagross will finally fall, but that Urshifu, the Landorus being available right there in the back.
Both of these Pokemon are so low, all the residual damage as well as this hail chip, proving to really put in work here. So right down to it, but it is just going to come down to other train and who's going first here. But one Earthquake is all it's going to need to clean it up. Landorus acting first, taking down this Rillaboom, and Marco evening the score here 1-1, and we're going to have our second game 3 of the day.
I think that end game is really underrated, and what some people might miss is what Marco did earlier. As soon as the last 2 were in, changing the terrain to the Psychic terrain, getting rid of the grassy terrain and removing the threat of Grassy Glide as a priority move actually turned out to be super important. If Rillaboom had access to that at the end, that game could have been a little bit different, and I think that heads-up play and just game planning ahead has to be recognized and applauded from Marco's side of the field. So game 3, both trainers playing a very good game, getting everything they wanted in either side. Antonio really fought back hard against that early kind of devastating turn 1 loss of the Colossal, and maybe back to the drawing board for him on this one. It's still a powerful combination, it's still so potent, but you can't lose your Colossal on turn 1, only getting the Volcalith up and expect to win a game.
Yeah, I can't disrespect the absolute sheer power that Landorus brings out onto the field, especially paired next to that Togekiss. So it's going to be all on him to respond going to this game 3, which I'm really excited to see how this first turn is going to play out. If there's any lead adjustments, but surely what's going to be happening with the turn adjustment.
Yeah, if there's the same lead, I want to see different plays. I want to see some mind games. Maybe let the players think a little bit more about what they've looked at in games 1, how it went down in game number 2, and how you can respond the best to that. Think how your opponent might respond, and try and play to that. Best of 3 is a very fun way to play the game, to make sure that you're always getting the best out of both of these trainers. And it's now down to a best of 1. Loser, unfortunately, goes home in this one. So I'm sure both trainers feeling a little nervous before going into this one, wanting to make sure they can advance to that last round. They've still got another round to go after this.
Yeah, so let's get to it. Let's hop into the game here. So as we said, this is losers, so tournament life on the line. One of these players will be moving on, and the other, this will spell the end for them. So be interesting to see. Of course, it is the same leads this time around, but there's definitely surely going to be some adjustments made. We saw how drastically game 1 and game 2 turned out just on the lead, so it'll be interesting to see how these players respond.
There has to be an adaptation here, or else things are going to get really nasty really quickly once again. I mean, you don't want to, neither trainer wants to run back the turn 1 from their loss, so they've got to maybe go for that. And I think after game 2 being the most recent, Antonio's the one who's going to have to mix this one up a little bit. Really, didn't quite get into the game in that first one, or in the second one, just because of that. And here's an immediate change. Marco throwing up the Dynamax in turn 1, something he's been saving for the Metagross in the past 2 games, but realizing how useful, how good that Landorus was in the previous one, and immediately deciding to Dynamax it.
Of course, in this game 3, it's all up to Antonio to respond, but Marco wanting to make a big change right off of the bat here with that Dynamax, but Antonio going for the Dynamax as well on the first turn. And it is going to be that Colossal yet again, so be interested to see if there's any adjustments or a max guard or just going for a sheer full power attack.
There's a lot to be thinking about in this turn. It doesn't look like there's any delays from Antonio's side of the field, just deciding to, you know, once again, set up that Colossal on turn number 1. Not scared of the Landorus, even after what it did in the previous game, just absolutely going for it.
Interesting to note, no follow me coming out from the Togekiss here, which means the Landorus is taking the hit, but it's holding on through the hit with a couple amount of HP, which means it is going to have the opportunity to fire off a Max Quake of its own. We saw how devastating an Earthquake was. Max Quake, of course, being even more devastating and just being able to take out that Colossal right off of the bat. And the Togekiss actually has the opportunity now to still be hitting an attack to try dealing with that Dragapult a little sooner.
Another devastating turn for Antonio, losing his Colossal as soon as he gets all of that setup down. Togekiss taking advantage of that as well with a single target Dazzling Gleam, doing a whole lot of damage to this Dragapult. Really, really impactful. The G-Max Volcalith, I'd say if there's one max move you want to fire off with your Colossal, it has to be the Volcalith, just because you're able to get that residual damage down each turn. And that could be really, really important. But there's no follow-up max moves, and these Dynamax turns that are so crucial in these games already being removed as an option for Antonio, so has to find a really big comeback here, and I'm not quite certain the Dragapult's going to be able to put in a massive shift immediately. Rillaboom coming in earlier than it did in the previous game will have a better time controlling the terrain. There's no Metagross Dynamax using Max Mindstorm, so that could be the potential kind of win condition for Antonio, is allowing Rillaboom to come into the game and take a little bit of control.
Yeah, for all the lack of pressure this Dragapult offers, this Rillaboom does offer some. So it's going to come down to how Marco's wanting to play this. Of course, going for the follow me means the Landorus is safe from a potential Grassy Glide. There's also potential Fake Out pressure on the board, and having to kind of make a decision on what he thinks Antonio is going to be going for.
Gotta call this turn perfectly if you're Marco to keep up your advantage, or else things could switch around pretty rapidly when it comes to the momentum in this game. Rillaboom faking out into that Togekiss, making sure that it wasn't able to play anything this turn, and Dragapult landing the Breaking Swipe, trying to get that damage down to take out the Landorus, and it is enough. The critical hit, making sure that's a great turn for Antonio.
A Breaking Swipe normally doesn't hit for the most damage, or importantly, being able to get the attack drops, but in this case, getting enough damage, especially with that critical hit to boot, being able to take out the Landorus before it has the opportunity to really capitalize off of the second turn of Max. So Marco going for the Protect on the Togekiss to withstand the Fake Out. Of course, that's where the Fake Out went, but Dragapult ready to just follow up just in case, and that's definitely a blow here.
That's a massive loss. That Landorus looking to sneak in another one of its max moves. But once again, we're looking at Dynamaxes that were very, very low impact in these games, only landing one attack apiece. I was watching that health bar go down after the Breaking Swipe, and it was going down surprisingly fast. So the critical hit there certainly helping out, making things a whole lot more comfortable for Antonio. We're down at 3-3, no Dynamaxes available for either of these Pokemon, and the Metagross that just got bought in has been so useful with that Max Mindstorm, being able to control the terrain. That's just not available right now because the Dynamax has already been used on the Landorus. So this game's surprisingly even. Next turn, I think, is going to be the opener to see how far they can get in this one.
And to start it off, Rillaboom opening up the turn with a Grassy Glide, but no follow me from the Togekiss means this Metagross suffering a very similar fate to the last two games, getting a Will-O-Wisp. Togekiss instead fishing for a potential crit into the Rillaboom, but unable to get it, just picking up a good amount of chip, and Metagross not nearly as much chip after that burn.
As Metagross kind of taken out of the game almost immediately once again. As soon as it takes the field, the Dragapult uses its naturally high speed to land that burn and make sure that the damage is reduced. Its residual damage between turns is going to be absolutely bananas. Obviously, some grassy terrain helping out there, but the burn really important. And that's just like free damage on a Metagross between turns. A Pokemon that's notoriously hard to take out if you don't have super effective hits to land. But it's going to be struggling to land big hits in response. thanks to that Will-O-Wisp, this Rillaboom certainly given options to try and deal some big damage of its own. Not really being slowed down by anything. This Rillaboom wants to save itself for the end game though, wants to be able to deal with that Urshifu towards the end.
Of course, and at least while the Metagross was maxed, even though it was burnt, the max moves have such a big damage output, it was still able to make something happen, but we saw just how little that Ice Punch was doing on the Rillaboom, so definitely a little bit difficult. Togekiss starting the turn off with a Protect here. The Rillaboom goes through the Grassy Glide to try and be picking up some chip, but not able to connect. Dragapult just looking to deal a little bit of damage to this Metagross here. And very little damage it is. Ice Punch is going to connect into the Rillaboom, but still not quite enough to be picking up that KO.
Still not getting there. That burn, huge and impactful in every single game, actually. I love the option to have it as a supportive choice on this supportive Dragapult. It doesn't really need to keep on going, so really struggling there to make an impact in the game. Residual damage has been adding up as well. Just look how low that Togekiss is, clinging on with 4 health, unable to really have any more impact in the game after this turn. There's no more residual damage though. That's a nice help. The Volcalith's rocks have ceased their assault on the field, and now it's just kind of straight up Pokemon as we are on the board. No more Dynamaxes, just pure board position and maneuverability here. Of course, the Metagross is burned, the Togekiss is low. Maybe even a Surf would clean up that Togekiss.
Oh yeah, this is definitely a really close game going into this potential end game with the Dynamaxes both done. Both players only being able to capitalize off of 1 turn of the max, but the colossal residual effect it was able to set, which is so big. Dragapult is going to go for that Surf here. Of course, Breaking Swipe wasn't able to connect with Togekiss, being a Fairy type, but the Surf can, and it will, as it finally cleans up the KO on the Togekiss, which was unable to get that double Protect. And this Rillaboom firing off a big knockoff into the Metagross, getting rid of the Assault Vest, and bringing it real close to being KO'd.
This Metagross is absolutely useless at this juncture. It's just not able to have a solid impact in the game at all. Even the Ice Punch going after a Dragapult, not enough to get those knockouts. It's sticking around, the residual damage from the burn being kind of counteracted by the grassy terrain. So it's not going to fall too easily to those, but it's really looking dangerous for this Metagross, taking a large amount of damage in that previous turn.
Oh, of course, but it's time for the Urshifu to be hitting the field. It is at full HP, so it has the opportunity to try and make something happen here, of course. Rillaboom has access to that priority move in Grassy Glide, but Urshifu has one of its own with that Aqua Jet, and both this Rillaboom and Dragapult are real low on their HP, so there's always that potential here, but the Urshifu also doesn't really appreciate getting aggressive Glide either, so definitely a little bit of a tricky situation for Marco.
It's a tough one. There are good attacks, good mix of priority and being able to land, but Rillaboom doesn't care. Rillaboom actually dealing with the Metagross first, so no respect for the Urshifu, just wanting to make sure that Metagross is off the field, and it looks like Dragapult is going to say, I have the answer to this Urshifu.
Breaking Swipe coming through, picking up a considerable amount of chip here, is lowering the attack as well. Not that it's going to matter too much. This Rillaboom was already so low that even a -1 attack was Combat able to pick it off. But the negative of that is now its defense and special defense have been lowered, which is not something that's too positive after the Focus Sash has been broken.
This Urshifu coming in for Antonio's side should just be able to do the business. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. It's got nothing to break its Focus Sash. Guaranteed a couple turns, and Marco doesn't have a couple of turns to work through this Urshifu. Is just absolutely left trying to deal with it. Of course, it's already got a reduced attack, a reduced defense is there, and I think Marco, knowing what's coming, wanting to make the Pokemon score a little more flattering, it's not enough to deal with the Dragapult. Look at how much damage that Breaking Swipe is doing, but it's over to the full health Urshifu to tidy up the game for Antonio and keep his tournament run alive. Phenomenal set from both of these trainers. Identical leads, different plays every time.